ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Paul, I know your work. I've seen some of your movies.
Oh
You
my God.
you have done work, Paul. You have been out here. And what amazes me about you, Paul, is that this film is nothing like a rom-com or nothing like a film that we're going to watch. This is an amazing story. Tell us about your film.
Well, I have done stuff. I made a couple of documentaries, and I saw a race, and I go, "There's something interesting here." When I saw it in person, I said, "There's got to be. This is beautiful, but it's also dangerous. What's behind the story here? Who are these people that have been able to do this with a motorcycle?" And it turned out it was like opening a door into an entire world that is fascinating, with high stakes, high risk, and high reward, and big prices to pay.
Well, and that's what I was obsessed about because I had done interviews with some of your subjects that are in this, and I said to them, if you like documentaries that are like on Netflix, like Wives with Knives and missing people and true crime and all of this stuff that's become so popular, this has some This is not just vroom vroom motorcycle. Like Paul, you bring some drama to this movie.
Well, I didn't bring, all I did was uncover what's there. That's my job. And, we also were a little bit lucky that we get to have a murder story in a sport.
Literally.
Um, and that was kind of a tricky thing because, I didn't want the tail to become the dog and suddenly be doing a murder story, but you can't tell the story without the guy who created the sport. Excuse me. And it's kind of funny because, in the course of doing the movie, he got my phone number and the phone number of the other producers, and he would call all the time. You'd be driving down the highway because you couldn't tell when you were going to get him. And we wanted to make sure we had the sound bites, and he was wanted this to be told. So you'd be driving along with the kids, or you'd be at work or be in an office, and my cell phone would ring. You have a call from the Raymond J. Donovan facility, and next thing you know, you're talking to a guy who committed a double homicide, but he does he's very adamant that he's innocent, but it became part of the story.
Well, you've got me hooked. I mean, if that's not a clip, if that's not an interesting story to tell you, but what I find most interesting about this is I don't have an adventurous bone in my body. I have never ridden a motorcycle. I have never done an extreme sport. I have never done anything like that. But what's fascinating about it is the psyche behind why, how it grew, and then what happens to these athletes. I was speaking last week, and we were talking about the organization that helps people that are injured in rehab.
Right.
Like there's quite the it's a professional sport, just like we hear about football players that get injured, etc. So at what point did you fall in love with the sport, and why did you think this was a story that we needed to be told?
Well, what made me fall in love with it was the illusion that it appeared to be easy and fun and not, they're sitting down on the motorcycle and they just twist their little wrist and they have a seat and they fly around. But then when I saw it, and then I started to learn these guys' heart rates are 180 to 200 beats a minute for 22 minutes, 3 times a night. Now, in boxing, you may hit 180 beats, but then you get a minute rest and you can run around the ring. These athletes, I said, that's unbelievable. Then I became to understand the slightest mistake mentally, if you don't pay attention, bam, you're on the dirt and you're going to get hurt. And then you start learning about this culture, which then expands beyond where Supercross is the pinnacle. Then we met the privateers, which doesn't exist in any other sport. I mean, you can't go to a playground in the NBA on Saturday afternoon and then, I did really well, I'm going to go to Madison Square Garden. But in Supercross, you have a cadre of people who travel around the country on their own dime, risking all these things, not making money, for the dream of making it into the night show, as they say.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. And then you have these young kids, and then I started to learn that they are so amazing as athletes because they start at 4 years of age, studying and learning about the throttle, and they become, they're being scouted as professionals at 4 and 5 years old. So it just opened up like learning about a whole world that I didn't know.
Well, it's fascinating. It's amazing documentary. And what I love about it for you, congratulations to you, is that
Thank you.
not only has this been picked up, like this is going to have a release. People are going to be able to see this in theaters. People are going to be able to stream and watch it. And there's a humongous following. Like the ratings and the people who come out and see these races is huge, huge. So what is it like for people who don't love the sport? Why should we watch it if we're not following it?
Well, the film is designed, and I always say, look, I make it. You guys decide, and the fans, whether I achieve my goal or not. All I can do is try, and um, it's meant to be human stories. That's why it's called the story of Supercross, not the history of Supercross. And what I tried to do was find different slices like a pie that make a whole, but each individual one is a compelling human, story. That whether you know anything about racing or not, when Ricky Carmichael talks about his mother saying, "Get back out there, do another lap faster," she's just a mother pushing her son. And when Bob Hanna, who I think is one of the more fun guys in the thing, talking about being a competitor, goes, "I hated my competitors then, I hate them now. If they walked in the room right now, I tell them to go screw themselves today." It's like, these are human beings. And I don't think you need to know anything about racing to appreciate the movie, or at least that's my goal. And I hope at the same time, if you are know about the sport, you go, this guy captured my passion, and that someone appreciates. So hopefully I've been able to achieve that duality. My fingers are crossed, and seeing it on the big screen, I have to say, we shot it for that. I put the cameras there, and I said, this movie's called Pay Dirt. It's about dirt. It's a world on dirt. And I said, let's capture that. Because, when you watch on TV, by nature, they have to put the camera up high. And, the other thing about it is, these guys look like toys. They got colorful helmets, and the bikes are all colorful, and they fall down and they get up, and it feels kind of antiseptic. Well, I wanted to bring you in where you feel the dirt. You see their eyes. You hear them breathing. And so that's what you can do in a movie versus watching a race. But then when you go to watch the race later on, hopefully you tune in, you go, okay, now I know what they're feeling. I know what that sense is. So it's cinematic and emotional. At least that's my goal.
Well, congratulations. You sure did it. And you bring some Hollywood superstars with you too. Josh Brolin how did Josh Brolin get attached to this film? And how did you call him, ask him, text him, reach out to an agent? And why did he say yes?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. A few years ago, I was working on a surfing movie, and I went out surfing, and we didn't have a narrator. So I paddled out to go surfing at my local beach, and there he was in the water. But I was too nervous to talk to him. I was like, oh, this guy, he has a great voice. So my wife, Susan Cooper, who's my partner, she goes, I'll see what I can do. So she calls his agent, and he goes, no, Josh does not do voiceovers. He thinks his voice is terrible. So the answer is no. But my wife, being a producer, she kept calling and eventually told him about it. And it was the first actual big voice thing he had done. And turns out he's a surfer. He rides a motorcycle, and we've kind of collaborated. And I have to say, there was a point in the making of the movie where I was lost between the stories and the timeline and the murder story. And it feels like it all comes together now, but can you imagine all these little pieces? And so I was kind of lost. And I went to Josh, who, I wouldn't say we don't go and have coffee in the morning, but I called him up, and I said, what do I do? And he just said, look, quit trying to please people. Just please yourself. Be an artist, be selfish, have your vision, tell the rest of the world to screw it. And he goes, and guess what? You might fail. It may not work. My advice might be really bad, because, but I guarantee you will fail if you don't be your honest self. And he goes, have faith in yourself. And I've done it with him before. And that really inspired me, having his confidence. And then he rides a motorcycle, and he has, as much as like anybody, he's a big actor. When he came into the studio to do the voiceover, and I had written the script, he had me direct him. And it was kind of nerve-wracking, like, Josh, could you do that line a little differently? At first, he goes, Paul, you're here to tell me what to do. And he said, I'm here to do this for you, because I don't need to be here. And, you're not paying me my money. He goes, I'm here because I want to be here, because I want you, because I'm an actor, to use my passion for you. And he could not have been more of a gentleman and more of a professional. And we were there for hours, because once, it's a pretty script heavy. And his role in this movie was critical, because we have these sections that don't fit together. He is the connective tissue. And he did it in a way, in my opinion, with no ego. He doesn't call attention to his voice, and he doesn't overdo it. He just says it, you feel it, and eventually he becomes invisible, but yet he's the tendons that hold the muscles together. So I couldn't be more grateful.
Well, while we're talking about it, it's Pay Dirt, the story of Supercross, and it's going to be in theaters throughout North America, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, starting on January 24th. So remember, I know there's a big premiere. I know that people are very excited about all of this, and the Supercross fans are super excited about it as well. But anybody who loves sports and stories telling in general, I was joking with you about you being a producer and romantic comedies like The Vow, which we all,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone and their mother has seen. It was a big giant
Sure.
hit. Channing Tatum, Rachel McAdams. There can't be in my head two different projects. Like this project lives over here and that project lives over there. So how do projects come to you and what do you look for in a project? Because you obviously don't follow any exact cookie cutter mold. So what is it that reaches out to you?
Kind of wish I had a cookie cutter because then I could do it easily over. But it's about human stories and it's about true stories. The Vow was a true story, and it wasn't a documentary, but it was capturing the essence of those two human beings. And Pay Dirt and some of the other movies I made, it's the same thing. Where's human emotion that we can relate to? Not about the subject, but about the humanity. And that's all I focus on is finding the truth, having it come out, and trying to tell, this. And almost like, how do I make this story naked so you can feel it with me? And that's all I can try to do. And they just come about the way they come about.
Do you ride a motorcycle? Are you
I
out
have
here?
ridden a motorcycle a little bit. I was out doing once and I crashed and I said, never again. My shoulder hurts to this day. So I still surf a lot, but that's one of the things I'm amazed, having just been on a motorcycle a little bit, that what these guys can do on a bike. I appreciate it, but it's so far beyond me that it's part of why I wanted to make this movie, to showcase how amazing they are.
Well, I'm excited. So who is this film for? But last question for you before I run off and as you hear the loudspeaker going off, because we're very professional here at the show. Paul, what is this movie? Who do you think should go out and see this film?
If you're a Supercross fan, it's like a love letter to yourself. But the people that really hope go and see, anybody who's looking for human stories of honesty, where it's unbridled, it's raw, it's real. And if you want to capture a slice of the human experience told through sports, but not about sports, check out Pay Dirt. And we're at paydirtthemovie.com and find a screening near you.
paydirtthemovie.com. I'm telling you, from the trailer to the film, it's a fascinating story about people and personalities, what makes these people tick, what's their journey like, and then also the heartbreaking story about people that are injured and what happens. You give a full account of what it's like out here in this sport. It's really entertaining. And Paul, I haven't played a sport or done anything in 30 years. So if I'm interested in it, you at home are going to be interested in it no matter what. It's a great story about the human psyche and what makes people tick. Thank you for the movies. Thank you for all the magic that you've shared on the screen. We look forward to having more, and we're really honored and we're grateful that we got to talk to you here tonight.
I'm humbled. Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
Please be safe, stay well out there, and we send our love to you and to your wife. And we'll be ready for the next one.
We'll have one for you.
All right, we're in. Thank you so much.